Hey, this is Tyger. Welcome to this video, pre-recorded video for the current Dovetail event. And welcome to Dresden-Neustadt, and welcome to my light-running Vectron locomotive. We have to allow this other train, this intercity train, pulled by another Vectron. We have to allow it to pass Dresden-Neustadt before us. I just spawned this locomotive here in the siding so that we can have a little intro run. And as always, let's turn on the DLC markers. We are in Dresden-World-6, Bahnstrecke Leipzig Dresden, waiting for our signal. And let me turn on this disclaimer telling you that I got this DLC key and the game key, all in all, the deluxe edition for Dresden-World-6, for free from the DTG for being an ambassador. This is what we get as ambassadors, free DLC keys. We're not getting paid, at least I am not. And however this might be, I'm always telling you what I think about the games and nothing else but my unfiltered opinion. Let's just set up this locomotive a bit so that we can run as soon as we have a signal. Are we good? We already have a signal. Brakes are cut in. We can release the brakes. Brakes are still cut in. Let's have a bit of lights and then we can actually start. AFB holding brake is releasing, and with a bit of luck, this yellow signal that allows us to go 40 changes to a flashing green one that announces us that we have to slow down to 60 at the next signal, but this is just as well. Need to acknowledge it. We're running in PCB mode M. Not strictly necessary as a light engine, but also as well. Let's have some impressions from the early morning at Dresden. In the background already the towers from the old town. And now approaching the big bridge across the Elbe. What is always a bit stuttery, but nevertheless always a great view across this beautiful town with its beautiful railways. And before we play along, let me tell you a bit what we are and who we are. Tygerways. You can find us on YouTube. Tygerways, it's me, Tyger, and obviously, even more important, my two awesome moderators, AJ and CD Radar, both streamers in their own right, and they take care of me while I am streaming. You can find the videos here on YouTube, obviously. You can also find us on Twitch, where we do our live streams typically. And what do? We run the trains, and in between we give you presentations about all things railway related, typically signaling, safety systems, train tech, and much more. Here, for example, we have a chart out of a presentation for American signaling, all the aspects, dwarf aspects, cap signaling aspects, and how they connect to certain codes here for pulse code, cap signaling. Here is a slide from the presentation about temporary speed restrictions that we have in Dresden-World-6 now, actually in the British system with the Daleks and the spade indicators and all those funny things. Here is a slide from a presentation. I'm just teasering you a bit, so all the presentations and the videos you can find on the channel. About the German HV light signaling system and how you can do speed signaling here. Then even more sophisticated stuff like Zugfahrten auf besonderen Auftrag mit Vorsignalfunktion and the 2000 meters rule, for example. We also have for different signaling systems, almost everything that is covered in Dresden-Symbol 6. Here the Dutch system with the Vorsign and the Hoofdsign. Hooggeplaatst, laaggeplaatst en de reflectorplaatjes in the bakens. Herhalingszijnen. All this stuff you can look it up and learn it in our presentations. Obviously we cover safety systems here, the British safety systems, master sheet. PZB, a lot of videos about PZB. Here, for example, the nice French and Belgian system, the Crocodile, and why it is called a crocodile, how it works. All the other systems are covered as well. Here, how you can mix the German systems on an ICET. Then in the train tech compartment, we sometimes talk about tap changer and how they work, and push-pull train technology, always on a basis that a layman can actually understand that. I am not an expert, I am not a railway official and nothing, but I'm always happy to learn, and I am always happy to be corrected by experts, real experts outside. Here is a slide where we compare how a commutator motor, traction motor works in comparison to a three-phase AC asynchronous induction motor on the Vectron, for example, if you want to know how a torque converter works, or a fluid coupling in a hydrodynamic or hydrokinetic transmission. We have a video about this. For example, how the American emergency brakes work in classic American freight trains with a one-line brake system. What is the problem with lateral buffers if you have central covers and all the stuff? And because nobody can find what they are looking for on the YouTube channel or the Twitch channel, we have even a web page where we have put all the videos together and indexed so you can find your stuff. We have signaling according to all the countries, safety systems on the pages for the countries, and train stuff in traction, brakes, running gears, and so on. And then we have some fun and be-real stuff. This one we will come back to when we got our train back to Dresden. So where is my game? Let's find a way to get our Vectron locomotive safely to Dresden main station. Isn't that always great in the early morning and the evening across the Labe with our Vectron? This interesting looking building is, as far as I know, a cigar factory, or at least was one. Yep, now I've got some stutters in the game. Maybe I was doing too much things around. I hope the game will recover from that. I have to say we are playing on a pre-release version of Dresden-Symbol 6 and recording, because the deadline was before the release, obviously, and so we have to admit that some fixes still have to take place before the release version actually goes out. So sometimes you run into situations where your frame rate drops quite heavily, and then all of a sudden it recovers. Don't know what happens here. You know what? I just let the game be on its own a bit, and I tell you what I wanted to tell you here with this presentation. Talking about what route actually is in the Train Sim World 6 incarnation of Leipzig Dresden. You can see where we are in Germany. This is whole of Germany, or almost whole of Germany, only a little bit in the north is missing. And we are in this corner, the southern part of the eastern part of Germany. Leipzig, Dresden, Kemnitz, Zwickau, that is Saxony. And we always had in Train Sim World 2 Rush Hour, I think, for the first time, Dresden-Riesa. This DLC with 2 lines, one for the high-speed traffic and one for the lower-speed traffic. We had the connector to Großenhain. We had Meißen-Triebitztal, which is always such a beautiful branch, and that was the old Dresden-Riesa. Now we had, from the same era more or less, Dresden-Kemnitz, the Taranta-Rampe. And from the early days of Train Sim World, we had the Rapid Transit Dessautomat Kleberg, what touches Leipzig main station. And now we are getting the connection between Leipzig and Dresden. Leipzig-Dresden being one of the oldest commercial railway that covers a certain amount of distance in Germany. And now all what is blue is new, and all the old stuff is encompassed in the DLC as well. And we're getting, on top of it, this nice connection between Dresden and Coswig via Friedrichstadt, and this is where we will actually drive a service to see what is happening there. That was my teaser, so I can take this out again. Let's see if the game has recovered frame rate wise or if it is still suffering. No, see, sometimes it works. And whatever kept the game from running smoothly went away. We are approaching another flashing KS1 with a ZS3V with CAN cipher 6 that needs to be acknowledged in the PCB. Since we are not going faster than this, it is not so difficult to comply with what the signals actually want us to do. And here we go. Now we actually are limited to 60 by virtue of this signal. And we're going to pass Dresden Hauptbahnhof. And then stable our locomotive behind Dresden Hauptbahnhof in that area where we have a lot of freight services ending. Now we're getting a KS2 telling us that the next signal is red. Since we're running under PCBM, I will let the speed drop below the 45 in case we are getting at 500 Hertz. That was the CIFA. And now we will probably just roll alongside Dresden Hauptbahnhof, what is one of those stations where you have bay lines in the middle and connecting line on the outside. Now, interestingly enough, the game goes to stutters again. So what do? We just leave it here since we are recording a video. Yeah, that is the Arrow 3 or a Morristown line coming with Train Sim World 6. And what I actually wanted to do is to run. You did not see the Steam overlay, hopefully, on the stream. Just saw that my moderator CD Radar is playing Train Sim World 5. Also for the last time, probably, when he gets Train Sim World 6 soon. So, Bahnstrecke Leipzig-Dresden. That Talent 2 is one of the trains where we can actually experience train faults, one of the random events. Coswig to Dresden, I think, is the one that I want to take. I freeze the weather for reasons and then jump into it. And what is so beautiful about the Dresden route, as it always has been, is that we have those amazing Hl-signals in the German signaling system. You're most probably aware that there are many different signaling systems in Germany, or not many, but at least a couple. And now I have to shout against the new music for Train Sim World 6. And then I can go on with my story about the signaling systems. All over Germany we had the HV system that was still active in the west and in the eastern part. After the division of Germany after World War II, they developed the HL system, like a lot of countries in Eastern Europe. And yeah, it is still around. After the reunification, signals got more or less replaced in the west and in the east by the now unified KS system. So on the main lines, on the more important lines, you find a lot of KS signals even in the east, but on the less important lines you find a lot of HL signals. And they are a bit unique. They are not so easy to read, but if you know how to read them, then they are really beautiful. If you're driving in Poland, then you know them. If you're driving in Czechia, you know them anyway. So, first thing before we do anything with our train, just look what the signal is doing in front of us here. The moment it is still red. Now it switches to yellow over a yellow ribbon. And after a while, as soon as the train in front of us leaves the block, the top light will change from yellow to green, and the other part will still stay. Aren't those signals beautiful? We will get into a little presentation about what those signals actually signify and how they are to read later on. At the moment, just let's set up the train, open the passenger doors, activate the safety systems, traditionally setting all those switches to the right. Sometimes you can switch those screens to night mode. At the moment it does not work. Marker lights should be okay. So our Baureihe 442. Well, in German you would say those people look a bit like bestellt and nicht abgeholt. Like summoned and not picked up. See what happens if we close our doors. Here at Coswig. Well, they just stay where they are. This guy probably was in charge to pick them up. But he changed his mind. Signal is still at what it is, and I tell you, the signal allows us to start with 60 and expect a clear high green at the next signal. Alright, let's see if we can get this talent to work. Looks a bit dangerous with those people standing so close to the train.
Herzlich willkommen im Zug RB 31.
Announcements.
Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station Radebeul-Naundorf. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Even though there is yellow in the signal, we don't need to acknowledge it. Because it is only in the lower part of the signal. So as I said, we're limited to 60 by virtue of the signal. and can expect that the next signal is showing us a high green. Using the talented tempomat. And now what did I say? Signal is showing us a high green. Yeah, it is a high green, even though it is a flashing yellow. That is the beauty of those signals. Let's see if we can get into photo mode. Well, we won't see the flashing in photo mode, but oh, we can almost see the flashing in photo mode. Just see where the signal is turning off in the flashing. And what I wanted to do at this point is to present you with one of my short videos that I made as a recap for how signals work. Just get here. So it is intended to be not longer than 3 minutes, little pieces of information so that one can recap the signals easily. German signaling, we're talking about speed signaling in the HA system. Obviously, everything I say on this channel here is for playing a computer game and not for applying it in real life, so leave the real stuff alone. It is a text, so it is just this little bit about the HL signals that I wanted to talk about now today. HL, and you can see red light is called an HP0, like in every other signaling system in Germany, and it is announced by a single red called HL10 in the HL system. In the regular braking distance, just like in every other signaling system in Germany, so that is not new. But there are some things that get more interesting. Also not so really new is that for speed signaling, you can actually have a green over yellow signal that limits you to 40. Also, you know that from the HV system. So nothing new, especially if the train has to go over a switch. But now it starts getting interesting. Unlike in the HV system, this yellow light can start flashing. And then we announce on the distance signal a signal that requires you to go slower on the main signal that follows on the distance signal. Like here, this announces you to go slow, 40 or 60. Interesting enough, with those bands we can express other speeds than 40, like yellow with yellow band translates to 60. It is announced likewise with a flashing yellow here, but we can also do yellow with a green ribbon is 100, and then this signal is not the correct signal to announce it when then we have a flashing green light to announce it. And if we have a high green, then we have a steady green light to announce it. That is more or less the whole magic of the HL signaling system. Steady yellow announces a steady red, obviously. A flashing yellow announces 40, what is green over yellow, or a 60, what is green over yellow with a ribbon, and the flashing green announces a 100, what is a green over yellow and a green ribbon. Whereas the part on top is not the important thing. We will see that what is announced on the upper part of the signal is always the part on the lower part of the next signal, telling you what to do at this signal. And then the upper part of this signal can announce you what you have to do at the next signal, and so on. This makes it more interesting if you have combined signals like this one that act as a distance signal and a main signal at the same time. Sometimes you have this downward pointing triangle, and let's say you have two blocks and want to announce different speeds with maximum authorized speed. You have always high greens. If you only announce a reduced speed on the second part, then everything happens just like we have seen it before. But here you can also combine speeds, like if you want to limit it here to 100 and then open it up to authorized speeds again, then you can have this combined signal here. And you can see how always the upper part of the signal announces what the lower part of the signal is telling you to do at this signal. And then the upper part on this signal is telling you what to expect on the lower part. And if it is a non-flashing high green, you can expect nothing, and nothing is no limitation. And then you can cycle through the motions, and then the signals have different names, but they are always easily read. The top part tells you what to do at the next signal, and the lower part tells you what to do exactly at this signal. And then you can read it from bottom to top, and with a yellow light on, it is always a speed restriction. With yellow and nothing, it is 40. With yellow and a yellow band, it is 60. With yellow and a green band, it is 100. And then you look again on the top part, and you know what the next signal does. Like this signal is telling you 60 and 100. This is 60 and slow. This is 60 and stop, for example. That would be 40 and go, and so on. That is the magic of HL signals. And this is the magic of having a presentation in a video of that kind. Let's go back to train driving. And this is why our flashing yellow on this signal announces us we have to prepare for a slow speed at the next signal, 40 or 60. But at the moment we are at line speed because we are not getting any restriction on the lower part of the signal. Yay. Line speed is 60 anyway. And why do we get a Zwangsbremsung here? Because also HL signals that announce a stop or a reduction in speed needs to be acknowledged in PZB, as we know that from the other signaling systems. So everything works as intended here. Let's see if we can get our train running again. We can. In the incline it is not always so easy to do this without having the train roll backwards, but it works. The Talent 2 is quite forgiving in this context. Now we are limited to 40 because of our Zwangsbremsung anyways. And if you're wondering whether this flashing yellow announces a 40 or a 60, you typically know that from your route knowledge and because you know the timetable, and then you know what is the speed at the next signal. And if in doubt, then always go for the 40. Here we can see it is actually 60, lower part, yellow light with a yellow band and green on top. So this signal is a 60 and go. We have to stop, so we can't go. But this is our problem, not the problem of the signaling system. Still have to stick to the 40 a bit. But now we can release. And could go faster if we wanted to. But it does not make sense because we have to stop anyway. Radebeul-Naundorf. And those announcement great. We have announcements on the train. We have announcements on the platform. Well, the passenger behavior can still be improved a bit. But the announcements add a lot of immersion to everything, in my opinion.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug RB 31 nach Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station Niederwartha. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Niederwartha. At least we know how to pronounce those station names. So, remember what the signal said, 60 and go. That means at the next signal we can actually go faster, since we stopped. A new signal indication would take effect. And let's check quickly what the speed is here, 100. And let's accelerate to 100 actually.
Nächste Station Niederwartha. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
And here we go. Let's see if we get a train fault on our Talent 2 until we get to Dresden.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug RB 31 nach Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station Cossebaude. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung links.
Cossebaude. That was the Sifa on this train. Somehow sounds nicer on the Vectron.
Nächste Station Cossebaude. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung links.
So this part is actually new for me as well. I'm playing this for the very first time. We got the keys on Friday, and I actually have been busy until now, Monday. Cossebaude. Nobody wanted to travel to Cossebaude.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug RB31 nach Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station Dresden-Stetzsch. Ausstieg in
Dresden-Stetzsch. No, Stetzsch, he says. Dresden-Stetzsch.
Nächste Station Dresden-Stetzsch. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Now I'm always a bit late on the brakes. Almost a bit late. But the train is forgiving in that context, as long as we don't have any eyes on the rails. Short platform here in Stetzsch. Train has a holding brake when the doors are open and we're standing around. It won't release this one bar out of the brake cylinders until we applied a certain amount of traction power. You can see it, waits a bit, and then for my taste it's actually a bit late to release the brakes here. See, yeah.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug RB31 nach Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station Dresden-Kemnitz. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung links.
It's funny, right? Dresden-Kemnitz sounds like the Taranta Rampe DLC, but it is spelled with a K and not with a CH.
Nächste Station Dresden-Kemnitz. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung links.
You can use the announcements on the train as brake markers, but then you have to yank in the brakes quite heavily. Don't know if that is still adequate or if everybody falls off their seats. Dresden-Kemnitz. So I honestly don't know why this train takes forever to release the holding brake.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug RB 31 nach Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station Dresden-Cotta. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
And now that... Where did the rain come from? No, it was no rain actually. That was part of the overhead catenary, as it seems. Limit to 90 announced. Acknowledging in this context is not strictly necessary, but it can never hurt. In case anything is wrong and the magnet is on anyways.
Nächste Station Dresden-Cotta. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
This part is beautiful along the river. One of the reasons why I was so happy when Matt told us that this line via Friedrichstadt will be in the game. So we're losing more and more time. Well, we have to live with this. First run on a new track. You better be a bit on the slow side. Also, I blame the holding brake. Look at that. We have to really work against the brakes. And now let's go.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug RB 31 nach Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station Dresden-Friedrichstadt. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung links.
Now we're getting actually to Friedrichstadt. Look at... Oh. And I'm getting another Zwangsbremsung. And why? Because I was looking around and did not pay attention. And how insulted my train is. I'm sorry, train. I should not look around when I'm running trains in situations and on tracks that I do not know. So what did we actually miss? Was it a signal? Was it an LF6 signal? The LF6 signal came later, announcing a drop in speed limit to 60. This one we should have acknowledged too. But there was probably also a signal. So after having talked to the dispatcher, we can go on with our journey.
Nächste Station Dresden-Friedrichstadt. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung links.
Does not help us with the delay. So we have almost 4 minutes delay in Dresden-Friedrichstadt. And look at this yard. This is what I actually wanted to say before we got the Zwangsbremsung. A huge yard that is in the game now.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug RB 31 nach Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Flashing yellow. Don't forget to acknowledge. Ordering us to go slow, 40 or 60, what it is. We should know from our timetable, since we do not have a timetable in the game. We have to know it from our route knowledge. Or we will just have to prepare for 40. At the same time we got a Gegengleisanzeiger telling us we're going into the opposite track. And here, this is one of the situations where we are combining HL signals with KS signals. We had the announcement of the 60 on the HL, and now we have a KS repeater for this announcement, and now a KS signal with a ZS3 limiting us to 60. So even within the same sequence between the announcement and the execution, we can mix different signals from different signaling systems. Distant signal or combined signal is HL, repeater, and the next main signal is KS. No problem at all. And now we're going into Dresden Hauptbahnhof. This time hopefully without the game starting to lag. KS2 with ZS3 60. Since we are in PZB mode M.
Station Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Here was a very shortly announced, let me show you that, announced temporary speed restriction. Those are the signals for the temporary speed restrictions that we get as random events in Trains in World 6 now. Unfortunately, at the moment, the lights are missing that come usually with the LF1 signal. That here should be the LF1 signal and announcing you there will be a speed restriction to 50, a temporary one, and it should have two yellow lights to the left and to the right. Allegedly, Lucas is working on that, and then this sign in the correct context here, LF2, this is where the reduction starts. LF3, this is where the reduction ends. Again, obviously the train has to go through the whole thing, and typically you have enough room to actually react to it. For the 10 kilometers per hour it would have been okay. I did not take it for LF1 in the first approach because the lights are missing. I thought it is an LF6 sign, and I had more time. Actually, this is one of the random events, a temporary speed restriction to 50, and we violated it a bit, being too fast. I hope we will get the lights for the LF1, and then all is cool. And in real life you would get an announcement in the law, you could read it up, that there is a temporary speed restriction. Now we got already the 500 Hertz. We need to slow down to 40 and PZBO within 153 meters. But since we are slow enough anyway, alright. If we manage to actually stop the train before the signal, then we did it.
Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Abfahrt 13:44 Uhr.
That announcement is a bit weird because we just arrived here. And 13:44 Uhr is obviously already done and over. Alright. Well, it was enough for a platinum medal, even though this training was this driving was slightly erratic. Anyway, this is the first impression for me, and I don't know, maybe for you as well, for Leipzig Dresden and Hl World 6. Hope you liked the video a bit, and if you want to learn more about the stuff, if you want to check out our presentations and our videos, tutorials, or just when we're having fun or doing weird things in the simulator, there actually should be a slide with our addresses. Here it is. If you want to watch me drive a train without always getting a penalty break and being on time, sometimes we do that as well. So thank you so much for watching. See you around. Take care.